Hello.
Hola,
Bonjour.
привет, 你好.
Hello and welcome to Language with Chu. Today I have unfortunately a very serious announcement to make, and that is that you must absolutely stop from now speaking English. It is a very, very deadly language, and apparently it spreads COVID-19 more so than other languages. Did you know that? You don't believe me, right? Good for you. It's utterly ridiculous. It's something that I read this morning thanks to a colleague of mine who forwarded it, and obviously I was interested, and I went to look. And as you can see, it's an article that says why speaking English may spread more coronavirus than other languages. Well, let me start by saying, obviously, the premise is that by speaking, you're gonna spread droplets that contain the virus, therefore you're gonna be spreading the virus more, and that's one of the main reasons why the authorities ask you to wear a mask, right? And to stay 6 feet away or a meter away from people. Except that that's BS. But the study, this article, the study says, is based on a very, very, very dodgy study. It's not. I wouldn't even call it scientific study on the SARS outbreak in China. It reads, at that time, there were far more Japanese tourists than American ones in South China. Yet, Americans accounted for 70 cases of SARS-CoV-1, and Japan had no cases at all. How could that be? At the time, one explanation by scientists, I should change that word, one explanation by scientists had to do with language. Since the staff of Chinese stores were generally multilingual, they typically spoke to US shoppers in English, while they spoke to Japanese tourists in Japanese. And that matters because English is full of aspirated consonants, while Japanese has a few of them. First of all, before I go into the aspirated consonants, the paper didn't say the shopkeepers spoke in English to the American tourists. They said they might have. That's the only explanation that they had. So keep that in mind. They might have spoken English, etc., etc. Well, people, I lived in China. I met many cashiers and shopkeepers in China, etc. Unless you find one, you stumble upon one that speaks perfect English, remember that pronunciation will stay very, very close to their native language. Okay, so keep that in mind too. Apparently, they explain in the article that aspirated consonants are P, T, and K. So P, T, K, right? Because you're exhaling, you're putting a little bit more air than, say, on the letter B, B. Okay? Except that's ridiculous because they only base themselves on those three consonants. And there's many other aspirated sounds like H, H, happy, the Spanish jota, H, all kinds of sounds that are aspirated or that emit droplets like sh, etc. But anyway, they stuck with P, T, and K, right? Okay, then further down in the article, they say they compared 26 countries with more than 1,000 COVID-19 cases, blah, blah, blah. There were indeed more cases of coronavirus infection in countries that spoke languages with aspirated consonants. So languages that had more p, t, k sounds, okay? These countries showed, pay attention to the numbers, 255 cases of COVID-19 per 1 million residents. Ooh, deadly virus, scary. While the countries where the languages had few aspirated consonants had 206 cases of COVID-19 per 1 million residents again. Obviously, these, and they admitted in the article, that difference from 255 to 206 doesn't make it statistically significant. There's too many variables in what they measure. They don't even list in the actual article that I went to look at. They don't even mention which countries they compared, which languages they compared. Nothing. It's like really, really bad science. And even the authors, fortunately, it's written in a medical hypotheses journal, so at least they admit that it's a hypothesis, although they say it's very, very, it's a strong hypothesis and people should research more on this. They even admit that they're making assumptions. So that's the premise of the article, okay? They decided that English was probably more contagious because the cashiers and the shop owners were speaking English to English tourists, therefore spreading the virus more than when they spoke to Japanese speakers. And in Japanese, there is no p, t, k. The consonants are a little bit less airy, less aspirated, okay? Except that's total bullshit, because when you, for example, talk to a Chinese speaker, a native speaker, unless they have a very good pronunciation, in Chinese, the P, K, and T are even stronger than in English. It's a P, it's a T, it's a K. There's a real H sound coming after the consonant. So unless it was a very, very good English speaker amongst those shop owners that they mentioned, they would have kept the accent, so they would have sent more droplets into the air, right? But that's not all. There are studies done on viruses and how they spread, how they have an incidence in the spreading of viruses, and actually the consensus is there is no difference between one language and the other. What makes the difference is the amplitude. So if I'm talking like this, I'm going to send less air. But if I'm talking like this, I'm sending more air out. Therefore, be careful. If somebody shouts, maybe they'll spread more viruses. The other thing is that it depends on the virus, because some of them, if they're located more in the laryngeal passage, where we form the sounds of language, then, okay, supposedly because of all the maneuvers we make when talking, we're going to spread more viruses. Maybe. And then basically the biggest difference that they found is that it depends on the individual. Are you somebody who speaks very loudly? Are you somebody who for some reason spit more when you talk? It's just that. It's just that. So making that the reason for English being more deadly is just ridiculous. Not only that, but when you measure the consonants, and you measure the length of the duration of these consonants. In English, supposedly the p, t, and k sound take about 60 to 80 milliseconds, right, when you pronounce it. And in languages like Korean, it's way more. It's 90 to 125 milliseconds. So for them to say that English is more deadly, they would have to compare with Korea, except in Korea there are many cases, right? Or any other language. There's they don't mention the pre-aspiration, which is when languages like Icelandic that have that you inhale and then you pronounce the consonant. I can't do it exactly right, but it's like p, or there's an aspiration before the consonant sound. Does that mean that then Icelandic people are more prone to catching the virus because they aspirate more air? I mean, do you realize the ridiculousness of it? Then there's also the fact that many languages, English, but English is not the worst, have fricative consonants. Those are the ones that are like vibrations, like s, sh, etc. Chinese is full of them. English has several, but all the languages have a sh or a s sound. And they never mention, as I said before, the h, the jota in Spanish, the h, the happy, the h in English. So really, it's just they just don't know what else to invent. What else can I say? In the paper they did say that the difference is not significant and that the shop assistants might have been speaking English, blah blah. But lo and behold, this paper actually comes. It was published by Elsevier. It's a big company, and supposedly it's just a company that lets you publish articles, etc., except for that, from the little I saw, it's a 2.5 billion company. It deals with information and analytics, and it works with big pharma, and it's linked. It's under it's like a pyramid. It's like under a group called Relx Group, which is under LexisNexis. And if you look it up online, you'll see, I mean, the amount of companies that they bought. I would be very surprised if this is just an innocent company trying to spread knowledge and and share scientific articles, etc. It's one of the largest publishers of academic articles, but when you see the links they have to private companies, pharmaceuticals, etc., I would not trust them for 1 minute to be objective. So there you go. Yeah, I think the problem is not your language. The problem is not even the way you speak or the particles, because as you can see in the video above, you can wear any kind of mask and the particles will still be spread, and the virus is not as deadly as they say, and the masks are serving another purpose. They're not protecting your health. They're not protecting your loved ones, and you're not going to protect your loved ones by starting to speak I don't know, Japanese all of a sudden. So I hope you got a kick out of this one too. There was another one where they were saying that tall people are more prone to the virus, that black people are more prone to the virus because they have bigger nostrils. I mean, it's just ridiculous, just ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to stop here, and I still love all languages, sorry, including English. And yeah, obviously I'm not gonna try and spit on anybody, but pronouncing an H or a P, really? See you next time, and click like or send me a comment if you've heard any other ridiculous stories like this, and see you soon for more on Language with Chu. Bye bye.